Hi there, my name is Jacob. Today I want to share a story, a journey that changed my life forever. Have you ever dreamed of traveling to a place so far away, so different, that it feels like stepping into another world? For me, that dream was America. For years, I'd seen pictures in magazines, watched movies set in bustling American cities, and heard stories about its culture, food, and people. The dream of exploring such a vibrant and diverse place was always in my heart. But dreams often come with a mix of emotions. As the day of my departure approached, I was filled with excitement and anticipation, yet a small part of me felt nervous. Would I enjoy the food? Would I understand the language? Would I feel out of place in such a vast country? These questions swirled in my mind, but deep down, I knew this journey was something I had to take. Not just to see the sights, but to learn, grow, and challenge myself. So, let me take you along on my journey, from the moment I packed my bags to the unforgettable memories I made in America. Every great adventure starts with preparation, and mine was no exception. As the trip drew closer, my days became a whirlwind of activity, filled with a mix of excitement and meticulous planning. Packing was one of the first major hurdles I had to tackle. America is an expansive country with diverse climates depending on the region, so it required careful thought about what to bring. I spent hours checking weather forecasts, reading travel blogs, and even asking friends who had been there before. For my destination, the prediction was warm days with cooler nights, which meant I needed a versatile wardrobe. I packed a selection of light t-shirts and shorts for the daytime, but also included a sturdy jacket, a couple of sweaters, and a pair of comfortable walking shoes for exploring. I made sure to account for unexpected situations by adding a raincoat and a small first aid kit. Clothes were just one aspect of preparation, though. Ensuring I had all the necessary documents was another. My passport was, of course, the most critical item. I checked and rechecked its validity, a habit born from paranoia but also practicality. The visa application process had been a journey in itself, involving paperwork, interviews, and a long wait, but thankfully it arrived just in time. Travel insurance was another non-negotiable item on my checklist. I wanted to be prepared for any unforeseen circumstances, from lost luggage to medical emergencies, so I purchased a comprehensive plan that gave me peace of mind. Lastly, there was the question of money. After doing some research, I exchanged my local currency for US dollars ahead of time. I decided to carry a mix of cash and a credit card, keeping the latter for larger purchases or emergencies. Beyond the logistical details, saying goodbye to family and friends was perhaps the most emotional part of the preparation. My parents, though immensely proud of me for embarking on this journey, couldn't hide their concerns. They gave me advice about staying safe, eating well, and calling home often. Their words of wisdom stuck with me and became a source of comfort. My friends, on the other hand, were all excitement and encouragement. Some even went the extra mile, giving me small but meaningful gifts like a leather-bound travel journal and a keychain shaped like my country's flag, little tokens to remind me of home while I was far away. Finally, the big day arrived. Standing at the airport, I was enveloped in a symphony of sounds, the hum of announcements echoing through the terminal, the rhythmic clatter of luggage wheels gliding across the floor, and the chatter of excited travelers sharing stories. It was a sensory overload, yet somehow, it all felt magical. My emotions were all over the place. Excitement coursed through me like an electric current, but there was a subtle undertone of nervousness lingering in the background. This was my first solo journey, after all, and the thought of stepping into an entirely new world was both thrilling and daunting. I clutched my travel documents tightly as if they were the keys to a treasure chest. My ticket, passport, and visa were all checked and double-checked, and my suitcase, meticulously packed the night before, held not just clothes but also a collection of my dreams and aspirations. I paused for a moment amidst the hustle and bustle, taking a deep breath to calm my racing heart. As I exhaled, I reminded myself of why I had embarked on this adventure in the first place: to explore, to learn, and to grow. The check-in process went smoothly, and soon, I found myself standing at the security line. The procedure felt like a rite of passage, a final checkpoint before entering the realm of international travel. Placing my carry-on bag, jacket, and shoes in the plastic tray, I watched as they disappeared into the scanner. I held my breath as I walked through the metal detector, relieved when the green light signaled me through without a hitch. Every step I took toward the departure gate felt like crossing an invisible threshold, leaving the familiar behind and stepping boldly into the unknown. As I reached the gate, I found a seat by the large glass windows overlooking the tarmac. The sight of airplanes taxiing and lifting off filled me with a sense of awe. Each one represented countless stories, of reunions, adventures, and new beginnings. I sipped on a coffee I had grabbed from a nearby cafe, using the quiet moment to reflect on how far I had come in planning this journey. This was it. No turning back now. The adventure of a lifetime was just a boarding call away, and I was ready to embrace every moment it had to offer. Beyond clothes, there were the essential documents, a cornerstone of my preparations. My passport was the most crucial item. I checked and rechecked it, ensuring it was valid, unexpired, and ready for this grand adventure. Each time I glanced at it, I felt a sense of anticipation build within me. Securing the visa was another significant step. The process was lengthy and required careful planning. From filling out forms to attending interviews and waiting anxiously for approval, it felt like a mini-adventure before the actual journey. When the visa finally arrived, I couldn't help but feel a wave of relief and excitement. This small stamp represented so much more than entry permission. It symbolized an open door to a world of possibilities. Travel insurance was next on my list, and it quickly became one of the most essential components of my preparation. While it wasn't mandatory, I understood that being prepared for unexpected situations was a non-negotiable part of traveling. After all, traveling to a foreign country meant stepping into the unknown, and I didn't want to leave anything to chance. I began by researching the different types of travel insurance available. There were plans that covered basic issues like lost luggage, while others offered more comprehensive coverage for medical emergencies, flight cancellations, and even trip interruptions. I wanted to ensure I was fully protected, so I opted for a policy that covered everything from minor inconveniences to major unforeseen events. The peace of mind this gave me was priceless. I spent time carefully reading the terms and conditions of the policy to understand exactly what was covered. For example, the insurance covered medical expenses up to a significant amount, which reassured me in case I faced any health issues abroad. It also included provisions for delays, meaning that if my flight was canceled or postponed, I would be compensated. Additionally, it provided reimbursement for lost or damaged luggage, which was a relief considering all the important items I would be carrying with me. The process of choosing the right plan wasn't quick. I compared policies from multiple providers, read reviews, and even asked for recommendations from friends who traveled often. This thorough approach paid off when I found a plan that balanced affordability with comprehensive coverage. It was a small price to pay for the security it offered, allowing me to focus on the excitement of my trip rather than potential worries. Finally, I printed out the insurance details and saved a digital copy on my phone and cloud storage. This way, I could access it at a moment's notice, whether I needed to file a claim or simply check the coverage terms. Looking back, investing time in understanding and securing travel insurance was one of the smartest decisions I made. It wasn't just a document, it was a safety net that allowed me to embark on my journey with confidence, knowing that no matter what happened, I had a plan in place. Money was another critical aspect of my preparation. After doing extensive research, I visited the bank to exchange my local currency for US dollars. I carefully calculated how much cash I would need for small purchases and daily expenses while ensuring my credit card was ready for larger transactions. To be cautious, I even kept a small amount of emergency cash hidden in a separate pouch, just in case. Lastly, I created a digital backup of all my important documents. I scanned my passport, visa, travel insurance policy, and hotel booking confirmations, saving them on both my phone and cloud storage. This way, even if something went wrong, I could access everything with just a few clicks. Preparing these documents wasn't just about checking off a list, it was about building the foundation of a smooth and secure journey. Each step became an important milestone in my journey. As I sorted through my passport and visa, I imagined all the places I would visit, and with every piece of paper safely tucked away, I felt one step closer to making my dream a reality. The meticulous process of ensuring my documents were in order also gave me time to reflect on the journey ahead. It wasn't just about seeing iconic landmarks, it was about growing as a person, navigating new challenges, and stepping into the unknown with an open heart and a curious mind. The process also taught me to appreciate the effort behind every small detail. For instance, I spent hours creating digital and physical backups of every essential document, a tedious task but one that gave me peace of mind. I also prepared a checklist for my travel bag, meticulously adding items like my flight itinerary, hotel confirmations, and even emergency contact numbers. Each of these actions, no matter how small, was a step forward into a grand adventure. This preparation phase wasn't just a task, it became an integral part of the journey itself, allowing me to build excitement and anticipation as I checked off every item on my list. By the time everything was ready, I wasn't just prepared, I was thrilled to embark on the journey that would change my life forever. Saying goodbye to family and friends was bittersweet. My parents, though proud of me, couldn't hide their concern. They gave me advice to stay safe, eat well, and always call home. My friends, on the other hand, were buzzing with excitement for me. They gave me small gifts, a travel journal and a keychain, tokens of home to carry with me. Finally, the day of departure arrived. As I stood in the airport, I was engulfed by a whirlwind of emotions and sensory overload. The bright fluorescent lights reflected off the polished floors, and the air buzzed with energy. The hum of announcements echoing across the terminal, the rhythmic clatter of luggage wheels, and the mingling chatter of excited travelers. Every sound seemed amplified, as if emphasizing the significance of this moment. I paused for a moment amidst the chaos, clutching my neatly organized travel documents. These weren't just pieces of paper, they were the culmination of weeks of preparation and planning. My passport, with its crisp pages and fresh visa stamp, felt like a ticket to a new life. My suitcase, which I had meticulously packed the night before, held not just clothes but a piece of my identity and the hopes I carried for this journey. As I took a deep breath to steady my racing heart, I couldn't help but reflect on the enormity of the moment. This wasn't just a trip, it was the first step toward a dream I had nurtured for years. The idea of venturing to America, a place I had only seen in movies and read about in books, was both thrilling and intimidating. Yet, despite the nervousness that lingered in the pit of my stomach, the excitement far outweighed it. The check-in process marked the first milestone of the day. The friendly airline staff greeted me with a smile as they tagged my luggage and handed me my boarding pass. I watched as my suitcase disappeared down the conveyor belt, a tangible reminder that I was truly about to leave behind the familiar. Navigating the security checkpoint felt like a rite of passage. I carefully placed my carry-on jacket and shoes into a tray, alongside my phone and laptop, watching as they slid into the scanner. As I stepped through the metal detector, I held my breath, relieved when the green light blinked, signaling I could proceed. Every detail of the process felt significant, like tiny steps inching me closer to the adventure ahead. After clearing security, I made my way to the departure lounge. The large glass windows offered a panoramic view of the runway, where planes taxied and took off with majestic ease. Each aircraft felt like a symbol of freedom and endless possibilities, carrying stories of reunions, discoveries, and new beginnings. I found a quiet corner, ordered a warm cup of coffee from a nearby cafe, and allowed myself a moment to soak it all in. As I sat there, sipping my coffee and watching the world unfold around me, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Every challenge I had overcome to get to this point, the visa application, the meticulous planning, and even the emotional goodbyes, felt worth it. This was it. The journey I had dreamed about was finally beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where it would take me. With my boarding pass in hand and my heart full of anticipation, I knew that this was just the start of an incredible adventure. The airport was a world of its own, a sprawling, dynamic ecosystem buzzing with activity. People from all walks of life hurried past, their luggage rolling noisily behind them, their faces a mixture of anticipation and fatigue. There was an electric energy in the air, a sense of purpose that seemed to propel everyone forward. For me, it was my first time navigating such a massive terminal, and every detail felt like an adventure. Checking in was thankfully straightforward. The airline staff were courteous, and I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness as I handed over my suitcase. Watching it disappear down the conveyor belt, I silently hoped it would reappear safe and sound on the other side of the journey. Next came security, a process that felt both routine and nerve-wracking. The line moved steadily, and I found myself observing my fellow travelers. Families with children, business people in tailored suits, and backpackers with worn-out shoes all stood in quiet anticipation. When it was my turn, I carefully placed my carry-on jacket and shoes into a tray, alongside my phone and laptop. As I walked through the metal detector, I held my breath, half expecting a loud beep to sound. Thankfully, the machine stayed silent, and I was waved through with a reassuring smile from the security officer. Emerging from security, I felt a sense of accomplishment, as if I'd passed the first test of this grand adventure. The departure lounge stretched out before me like a microcosm of the world, filled with people speaking different languages, exploring duty-free shops, and sharing moments of excitement. I wandered through the shops, marveling at rows of perfumes, designer watches, and chocolates neatly displayed in brightly lit cases. Though tempted, I resisted the urge to buy anything, reminding myself that the journey itself was the real treasure. Eventually, hunger led me to a small cafe tucked away in a quieter corner of the lounge. I ordered a sandwich and a bottle of water, finding a seat by the large windows overlooking the tarmac. As I ate, I watched planes taxiing to and from the gates, their sleek forms glinting in the sunlight. The sight filled me with awe and anticipation. Each takeoff felt like a story beginning, and I couldn't wait for mine to unfold. When boarding was announced, my heart raced. Walking through the gate and stepping onto the airplane felt surreal, almost dreamlike. Inside, the cabin was a hive of activity as passengers settled into their seats. I found mine by the window, tucked my carry-on into the overhead compartment, and sank into the plush seat. The engines roared to life, and as the plane lifted off, I pressed my face against the window, watching the world below shrink and fade into a patchwork of greens, blues, and city lights. In that moment, I felt a rush of freedom and excitement, knowing that my adventure had truly begun. The departure lounge was a fascinating place, almost like a miniature city bustling with life and energy. As I wandered through the brightly lit duty-free shops, I found myself marveling at the variety of items on display. Shelves lined with luxurious perfumes beckoned travelers to stop and sample their scents, while racks of beautifully packaged chocolates tempted my sweet tooth. Rows of souvenirs caught my attention, tiny replicas of landmarks, quirky keychains, and mugs emblazoned with uplifting travel quotes. Each item seemed to tell a story, yet I resisted the urge to buy, reminding myself that the real treasures lay ahead in the journey itself. Eventually, hunger pulled me toward a small cafe nestled in a quieter corner of the lounge. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and warm pastries was irresistible. I ordered a sandwich and a bottle of water, choosing a seat by the large windows overlooking the tarmac. From my vantage point, I could see planes taxiing gracefully to and from their gates, their sleek forms glinting in the sunlight. The sight was mesmerizing. Each aircraft felt like a portal to a new world, carrying passengers to destinations filled with endless possibilities. As I ate, I couldn't help but observe the people around me. Families with excited children, couples whispering about their plans, and solo travelers like me, all united by the shared thrill of embarking on an adventure. The lounge seemed to hum with anticipation, a tangible energy that added to my own growing excitement. I found myself wondering about their stories. Where were they heading? What dreams or reunions awaited them at their destinations? The minutes ticked by, and soon, the soft chime of an announcement broke my reverie. My flight was boarding. My heart skipped a beat as I gathered my belongings and made my way to the gate. Every step felt momentous, as though I was walking toward the start of a new chapter in my life. Stepping onto the airplane, I was greeted by the cheerful smiles of the flight attendants, their warm welcome setting the tone for the journey ahead. Finding my seat by the window, I stowed my carry-on in the overhead compartment and settled in. The cabin was alive with activity as passengers found their places, chatting softly or arranging their belongings. As the engines roared to life, I gripped the armrest, a mix of nerves and exhilaration coursing through me. The plane began to taxi, gathering speed until it lifted off the ground. From my window, I watched as the airport shrank below me, replaced by a vast expanse of blue sky and fluffy clouds. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of freedom, the kind that only comes from leaving the familiar behind and stepping boldly into the unknown. When boarding was announced, my heart raced with a mix of anticipation and excitement, as if the entire weight of the journey suddenly came alive in that single moment. As I stepped through the gate and onto the airplane, it felt like crossing an invisible threshold into a world of adventure. The cabin greeted me with a gentle hum of activity, passengers settling into their seats, the faint rustle of newspapers, and the occasional laughter of children traveling with their families. It was a microcosm of humanity, all gathered together for a common purpose: to fly to destinations that held promise, memories, or new beginnings. The moment I reached my seat by the window, deliberately chosen for the breathtaking view, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. I stowed my carry-on bag carefully in the overhead compartment and sank into the comfortable seat, appreciating the small touches that made the space welcoming. A neatly folded blanket and pillow waited for me, a small token of comfort for the long flight ahead. I buckled my seatbelt, feeling a thrill of anticipation bubbling inside me. This wasn't just a journey across the sky, it was a journey toward the unknown. As the engines began to rumble, a palpable energy filled the cabin. The flight attendants made their final checks, their professionalism reassuring as they moved gracefully down the aisle. Outside the window, the world seemed to hold its breath as the plane began to taxi, moving purposefully toward the runway. The vibrations beneath my feet heightened my senses, and I gripped the armrest, bracing for takeoff. The sound of the engines roared louder, and with a sudden burst of acceleration, we were off. The plane lifted from the ground, and I felt a rush of exhilaration as the airport below became a patchwork of lights and geometric shapes, shrinking rapidly as we climbed higher. From my window, the view transformed into a surreal landscape of endless sky and clouds that resembled vast fields of cotton. It felt as though we were suspended in an entirely new realm, far removed from the worries and routines of daily life. For a moment, I simply stared, captivated by the ethereal beauty of it all. The realization hit me: I was finally here in the air, heading toward a destination I had dreamed about for years. This was more than just a flight, it was the beginning of a transformative adventure, one that promised to reshape my perspective and fill my life with stories I would treasure forever. I found my seat by the window, which I had deliberately chosen for the view. After tucking my carry-on bag into the overhead compartment, I sat down and took a moment to absorb my surroundings. The seat was comfortable, with a small pillow and blanket neatly placed on it, and the window beside me offered a perfect view of the tarmac. I buckled my seatbelt, trying to steady the excitement bubbling inside me. The engines began to roar as the flight attendants made their final checks. A sense of exhilaration washed over me as the plane started taxiing toward the runway. The sound of the engines grew louder, and the vibrations beneath my seat made my heart pound. As the plane gained speed and lifted off the ground, I pressed my face to the window. The airport below shrank rapidly, the runways and terminals becoming miniature models in a vast landscape. Soon, the cityscape dissolved into a patchwork of green fields, winding roads, and scattered buildings. As we climbed higher, the view transformed into a breathtaking panorama of blue sky and soft, fluffy clouds. It felt as if we were floating above the world, detached from everything below. For a moment, I forgot all my worries and allowed myself to be completely present, savoring the sheer wonder of being in the air. The sense of freedom was overwhelming, as though I had left behind not just the physical world but also the constraints of daily life. This was more than a flight, it was the beginning of an adventure that would take me far beyond my comfort zone and into a world of new experiences. Flying for the first time was an adventure in itself, one filled with moments that felt both surreal and magical. The view from the window was nothing short of mesmerizing. Clouds stretched out like an endless white ocean, their soft edges glowing under the sunlight. It felt as though we were suspended in a world between earth and sky, a realm untouched by the chaos of daily life. Each moment I spent staring out the window deepened my appreciation for the sheer beauty of the journey. The flight attendants moved gracefully through the aisles, their professionalism matched only by their warm smiles. They carried trays of meals and drinks, stopping to chat briefly with passengers, which added a human touch to the experience. When it was my turn, I chose chicken with rice for dinner. I had heard so much about airplane food, both good and bad, that I was curious to see how it would measure up. To my pleasant surprise, it was not only edible but actually quite tasty. The chicken was tender, the rice perfectly cooked, and the accompanying salad was fresh and crisp. The small dessert that came with the meal, a chocolate mousse, felt like a little treat, adding a hint of indulgence to the practical meal. After finishing my dinner, I decided to explore the in-flight entertainment system, which offered an impressive array of options. There were movies, TV shows, music, and even games, a curated collection designed to cater to the diverse tastes of passengers. I chose a light-hearted comedy that promised to make the hours fly by. As the story unfolded on the small screen in front of me, I found myself laughing out loud at times, momentarily forgetting that I was thousands of feet in the air. The entertainment provided not just a distraction but a way to feel at home in an unfamiliar environment, easing the nerves that came with my first long-haul flight. Conversations with fellow passengers added a rich layer to the journey. The person sitting next to me was also traveling to America for the first time, and our shared sense of excitement created an instant connection. We exchanged stories about our reasons for traveling and the places we hoped to visit. She told me about her dream of seeing the Grand Canyon and how she had spent months saving up for the trip, while I shared my plans of exploring iconic landmarks and improving my English by immersing myself in the culture. As we chatted, the conversation took on a life of its own, covering everything from favorite foods to childhood memories. It was fascinating to hear about her experiences, and it made the journey feel less daunting. The hours seemed to pass more quickly as we laughed over shared jokes and encouraged each other about the adventures ahead. At one point, we even speculated on what airplane food might taste like, only to be pleasantly surprised when dinner arrived. The chicken and rice, while simple, were surprisingly satisfying, and we both agreed that it was far better than we had imagined. Later, as the lights in the cabin dimmed and most passengers settled into rest, a sense of tranquility enveloped the space. I leaned back in my seat and turned my gaze toward the window, captivated by the breathtaking view outside. The moonlight bathed the endless expanse of clouds in a soft, silvery glow, making them appear like a calm, ethereal ocean stretching far into the horizon. Each ripple of the cloudscape seemed to tell a story, a quiet reminder of how small we are compared to the vastness of the world above and below us. The gentle hum of the engines provided a soothing backdrop, a white noise that melted away the day's excitement and left me with a sense of peaceful anticipation. In that quiet moment, I reflected on everything that had led me to this point: the planning, the farewells, and the courage it took to step out of my comfort zone. This was more than just a physical journey, it was a mental and emotional leap into a new chapter of my life. As the cabin grew quieter, I noticed the soft rhythm of breathing from the passengers around me. Some were already fast asleep, their heads tilted at awkward angles against the seats, or bobbing gently in rhythm with the subtle movements of the plane. A child a few rows ahead clutched a small stuffed animal, their face serene and peaceful. Others were engrossed in books or immersed in their personal screens, the faint glow casting soft halos that illuminated their focused expressions. The occasional sound of pages turning or hushed whispers floated through the air, adding to the tranquil ambience of the cabin. For me, this was a moment to simply exist in stillness, a rare pause in life where the rush of deadlines and responsibilities faded into insignificance. I let my thoughts drift, unanchored, much like the clouds outside the window. Their delicate edges seemed to merge seamlessly into one another, forming shapes and patterns that felt almost alive under the moon's gentle light. Each cloud told a silent story, reminding me of the vastness of the world and my small place within it. In this serene moment, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to embark on this journey. It was a moment to reflect on how far I had come, not just in miles, but in courage and determination. To leave behind the familiar and embrace the unknown was not an easy step, but it was one that promised growth, discovery, and countless memories to come. The calm rhythm of the cabin lulled me further into this contemplative state, where anticipation and contentment coexisted harmoniously. For the first time in a long while, I felt completely present, untethered by the weight of expectations, and deeply connected to the promise of what lay ahead. Eventually, the calm atmosphere lulled me into a state of relaxation. My eyelids grew heavy, and I let my head rest against the seat. Before I knew it, I was drifting into a deep sleep, dreaming of the adventures that awaited me in America. In my dreams, I saw glimpses of towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, and the iconic landmarks I had longed to visit. The promise of new experiences filled me with joy, even as I slept, knowing that this was only the beginning of an unforgettable journey. Landing in America was nothing short of exhilarating. As the plane began its descent, I pressed my face against the window, captivated by the breathtaking sight below. The sprawling maze of highways crisscrossed the landscape like veins, while towering skyscrapers reached for the heavens, their illuminated windows twinkling like stars in the night. The vibrant glow of the city lights painted a stunning tapestry against the backdrop of the evening sky, filling me with awe and anticipation. Once the plane touched down and the cabin doors opened, I was greeted by the cool, crisp air of a new land. My heart raced as I followed the signs leading to immigration, a pivotal step in officially entering the United States. Though I had heard stories about the intimidating nature of border control, my experience was surprisingly smooth. The immigration officer who processed me was both professional and courteous. His brief questions about my visit, "What's the purpose of your trip? How long will you be staying?" were answered with eager confidence. With a reassuring smile and a resounding stamp on my passport, he welcomed me to the United States, and in that moment, it felt like a door to endless possibilities had swung open. The airport's arrivals hall was a whirlwind of activity, alive with the hum of voices and the clatter of luggage wheels. Families reunited with emotional hugs and laughter, their joy echoing through the spacious terminal. Travelers hurried past, some scanning signs for directions while others looked for taxis or ride-shares. I stood still for a moment, absorbing the energy around me. It was a scene unlike anything I had experienced before, a bustling intersection of countless personal stories. My first task was to find a taxi to my hotel. Navigating through the crowd, I located the taxi stand, where a line of yellow cabs waited in neat rows. The cool evening air hit me as I stepped outside, mingling with the distant sounds of honking horns and city chatter. A friendly driver greeted me and helped load my luggage into the trunk. As we pulled away from the airport, the city began to unfold before my eyes. The ride into the city was nothing short of unforgettable. Skyscrapers stretched endlessly upward, their glowing windows forming a dazzling mosaic against the night sky. The streets below buzzed with life, pedestrians hurried along sidewalks, street vendors called out to passers-by, and the rhythmic beat of music from a distant cafe added to the city's symphony. My driver, a cheerful man with a passion for storytelling, enthusiastically pointed out landmarks as we drove. He shared anecdotes about the city's history, recommended must-visit spots, and even suggested a local diner known for its legendary pancakes. His enthusiasm was infectious, and by the time we reached my hotel, I felt as though I'd already begun to connect with the vibrant pulse of this incredible place. The next morning, I set out to explore the city with eager anticipation. My first stop was Times Square, a place I had seen countless times in movies and pictures but could never fully grasp until experiencing it in person. The moment I arrived, I was hit by an overwhelming surge of energy, the kind that seemed to pulsate through the very air. Towering billboards lit up the sky, their vivid colors and dynamic advertisements demanding attention. The streets were alive with the constant motion of people, each individual seemingly on a mission, yet part of a collective rhythm that defined the heartbeat of this iconic place. Street performers entertained crowds with acrobatics and music, while vendors called out, offering everything from hot dogs to handmade trinkets. I spent hours wandering the area, letting my senses absorb every detail. The sounds of honking horns, laughter, and chatter mixed with the rhythmic beat of distant music created an urban symphony. I took countless pictures, trying to capture not just the visuals but the feeling of standing in the center of it all. At one point, I sat on the famous red steps, watching the crowd below and reflecting on how incredible it was to finally be here. The sheer scale and vibrancy of Times Square made it an experience I knew I would carry with me forever. Next on my list was the Statue of Liberty, a landmark that had always symbolized freedom and opportunity to me. As I boarded the ferry to Liberty Island, I found myself standing by the rail, eagerly watching the city skyline fade into the distance. The cool breeze off the water carried with it a sense of anticipation. The ferry ride itself was an experience to savor. The view of Manhattan's towering skyscrapers juxtaposed against the calm waters was breathtaking, and the soft chatter of fellow passengers only added to the atmosphere. As the Statue of Liberty came into view, my breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just a monument rising against the backdrop of the blue sky, it was a towering embodiment of resilience and hope. The sunlight danced on its iconic green surface, and I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of awe. It was far more imposing and majestic than I had ever imagined, a beacon that had welcomed countless dreamers to this land of opportunity. As the ferry docked and I stepped onto Liberty Island, the anticipation in my chest grew stronger. The air seemed to carry a certain weight, as if charged with the stories of millions who had stood in this very spot, looking up at the symbol of their aspirations. Slowly, I made my way closer to the statue, pausing to take in every detail. The folds of her robe, the torch held high, the resolute expression on her face. Every aspect spoke of strength and determination. Standing at the base, I felt an overwhelming connection to the ideals of freedom and equality that the statue represents. It wasn't just a statue, it was a living testament to the human spirit's unyielding pursuit of a better life. As I gazed upward, I thought about the millions of immigrants who had seen this very statue as their first glimpse of America, their hearts filled with hope for a new beginning. The thought was humbling, and I couldn't help but reflect on my own journey, wondering what dreams they had carried and how many had come true. Walking around the base, I took my time reading the plaques and learning more about its history. I reflected on the millions of immigrants who had passed through Ellis Island, seeing this beacon of hope as their first glimpse of a new life. It was humbling to consider the dreams and struggles of those who had come before. Standing there, I felt a deep connection to the ideals of freedom and equality that the statue represents. Before leaving, I climbed to the observation deck, where the view was nothing short of spectacular. The city stretched out in all directions, a breathtaking blend of old architecture and modern skyscrapers that seemed to touch the clouds. The waterways glistened under the midday sun, with ferries crisscrossing like tiny ants below. From this vantage point, the city's energy felt palpable, a dynamic force that pulsed through every corner. Looking out over the water, I reflected on the countless stories that intersected here, of immigrants who had arrived seeking a better life, of tourists like me marveling at the beauty and symbolism of this place, and of locals who called this vibrant city home. I thought about the hopes and dreams that the Statue of Liberty represented, not just historically but in the present day. It was humbling to witness this iconic piece of history up close and to feel part of something so much larger than myself. As I lingered, taking in the panoramic view, a profound sense of gratitude washed over me. The opportunity to be here, to stand where so many had stood before me, was something I would never take for granted. This wasn't just a landmark or a tourist attraction, it was a testament to resilience, hope, and the enduring human spirit. Leaving the observation deck, I knew that this moment would remain etched in my memory forever, a highlight of a journey that had already begun to change me in ways I was only starting to understand. Traveling in a foreign country isn't without its challenges, and I faced my fair share of hurdles. One of the first obstacles was understanding American English. While I had studied English for years, the fast pace, heavy use of slang, and regional accents in everyday conversations often left me feeling lost. Simple phrases like grab a bite or hit the road baffled me initially, and I found myself relying on context clues and sometimes just asking for clarification. But over time, these challenges became opportunities to improve. Each interaction, whether ordering food at a diner or asking for directions, helped me become more fluent and confident. Navigating public transport was another adventure. On my first day, I boarded the wrong subway train and ended up in a completely unfamiliar neighborhood. Initially, I panicked, but I quickly realized that this was an opportunity to learn. I approached a friendly local, who not only helped me get back on track but also gave me tips about the city's transit system. Each mishap taught me valuable lessons: how to read subway maps, recognize station signs, and even time my journeys to avoid peak-hour crowds. By the end of my trip, I felt like a seasoned traveler, confidently navigating the city with ease. Homesickness was another challenge that crept in unexpectedly. No matter how exciting my days were, there were moments when I deeply missed my family, my home, and even the small, comforting routines of my daily life. The warmth of a home-cooked meal, the familiarity of my neighborhood, and the sound of my native language often came to mind, especially during quiet evenings. To cope, I made a conscious effort to stay busy by filling my days with exploration, from wandering vibrant neighborhoods to visiting cultural landmarks. Every evening, I made it a point to call home, sharing stories of my adventures and hearing about the little happenings back home. These calls became an anchor, grounding me amidst the whirlwind of new experiences and reminding me that while I was far away, I was never truly alone. Over time, the feeling of homesickness became more manageable, transforming into a quiet appreciation for the life I had left behind and the journey I was on. One of the highlights of my trip was meeting new people and forming connections that turned ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. At a cozy corner cafe, a friendly barista not only prepared the perfect cup of coffee but also shared insights about the city's hidden gems, off-the-beaten-path spots that tourists often overlooked. Her enthusiasm made me feel like a local, and following her advice led me to discover quaint bookshops, vibrant street art, and a park tucked away from the usual hustle. During my exploration, I also struck up conversations with fellow tourists who were equally eager to share their experiences and tips. We exchanged recommendations for must-visit landmarks, the best local foods, and even tips for navigating the public transport system more effectively. These exchanges not only enriched my itinerary but also created an unexpected sense of camaraderie among travelers from all over the world. The most serendipitous moment came when I stumbled upon a local festival. The streets were alive with music, food stalls offering aromatic dishes, and colorful decorations that lit up the night. I found myself dancing to live music alongside strangers who felt like friends within minutes. The festival was a whirlwind of joy, connection, and cultural immersion. It wasn't just about the sights and sounds, it was about feeling deeply present and engaged in the vibrant life of the city. These moments of connection and celebration turned my trip into an unforgettable tapestry of human experiences. As my trip came to an end, I spent my last evening in Central Park, a serene oasis in the heart of a bustling city that seemed to embody the perfect contrast to the urban energy I had experienced throughout my journey. The golden hues of the setting sun painted the sky in shades of amber and rose, casting a warm glow over the park. Long shadows stretched across the winding paths, where joggers, families, and couples leisurely strolled, their laughter and chatter blending harmoniously with the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Sitting on a wooden bench near one of the park's tranquil ponds, I allowed myself a moment of stillness. The cool evening breeze brushed against my skin, carrying with it the faint scent of fresh grass and blooming flowers. From my vantage point, the city skyline loomed in the distance, its towering structures softened by the twilight. The reflections of the skyscrapers danced on the surface of the water, creating a mesmerizing interplay of light and shadow. In that quiet moment, I reflected deeply on everything I had experienced during this incredible journey. Each challenge that once felt daunting now seemed like a stepping stone, teaching me resilience and adaptability. I thought about the laughter shared with strangers who quickly became friends, the new and unexpected flavors I had tasted, and the sense of awe I felt standing before iconic landmarks I had only dreamed of seeing. The memories played in my mind like a vivid reel, filling me with gratitude for the adventure I had embraced. Traveling to America had been more than a chance to see famous places. It was an expedition into the unknown corners of my own potential. I had stepped out of my comfort zone and discovered a version of myself that was braver, more curious, and deeply connected to the world around me. As the city's lights began to twinkle in the distance, they seemed to whisper promises of new adventures yet to come. Rising from the bench, I took one last lingering look at the beauty surrounding me and silently promised myself to carry the lessons of this journey into the chapters of my life still unwritten. In that quiet moment, I reflected deeply on everything I'd experienced during this incredible journey. The challenges that had initially felt daunting now seemed like stepping stones, each one teaching me resilience and adaptability. I thought about the laughter I had shared with strangers who quickly became friends, the new flavors I had tasted, and the sense of wonder I felt standing before iconic landmarks I had only dreamed of seeing. Every memory played in my mind like a vivid reel, filling me with gratitude. Traveling to America had been more than just a chance to see famous places. It had been an expedition into the unknown corners of my own potential. I had stepped out of my comfort zone and found a version of myself that was braver, more curious, and deeply connected to the world. As the city's lights began to twinkle in the distance, I realized that this wasn't just the end of a trip, it was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I rose from the bench, taking one last look at the beauty around me, and promised myself to carry the lessons of this journey wherever life would take me next. Returning home, I felt like a completely transformed person, carrying with me a newfound sense of resilience, adaptability, and an appreciation for the beauty of embracing the unknown. The journey had pushed me beyond my comfort zone, teaching me lessons that no textbook or classroom could offer. I had navigated unfamiliar streets, overcome language barriers, and discovered the joy of connecting with people from different cultures. Each interaction, whether with a local sharing their favorite hidden spots or a fellow traveler exchanging stories, enriched my perspective and deepened my understanding of the world. The breathtaking places I visited were more than just locations. They were experiences that stirred my soul. Standing before landmarks that I had only ever seen in photographs gave me a profound sense of awe and gratitude. The laughter shared during unexpected moments, the serenity found in quiet corners of bustling cities, and the thrill of trying new flavors and foods all became treasured memories, etched permanently in my heart. If you've ever dreamed of traveling to a new country, my advice is simple yet heartfelt: take the leap. Step into the unknown with an open heart and mind, because the world is brimming with adventures waiting to be discovered. Each journey holds the potential to not only show you new sights but also reveal parts of yourself you never knew existed. You'll return with more than just photographs. You'll come back with stories, friendships, and a deeper connection to the world around you. The magic of travel lies in its ability to change you in ways you can't anticipate. So, whether it's a trip across the ocean or a simple journey to a neighboring town, embrace it fully. You never know how these moments of exploration might shape your future. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep dreaming, exploring, and letting the magic of the unknown guide you to places you've yet to discover. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey that has been more than just miles traveled. It has been a journey into the heart of exploration and personal growth. If you've enjoyed this story and found inspiration in it, I invite you to support my channel by subscribing, liking this video, and sharing it with your friends. Every subscription and share helps create a growing community of curious learners and adventurers. Let's continue to explore the world together and build our English vocabulary through engaging stories like this. Until next time, keep dreaming with boundless imagination, exploring every corner of the world with an open heart, and embracing the magic of the unknown, where the most meaningful discoveries often lie waiting.